Now, I know you won't be shocked or surprised, but I have been spending a lot of time at home lately. And in fact, I had not actually been in this building or in this chapel since March 27th, when I came here to grab a music stand, thank you, Temple, and a few other things, like my Rabbi's manual, in order to officiate my first Zoom wedding. And while the pace of life has changed, it's still so busy, but has a different pace to it. I notice that I spend so much of my days waiting. Not waiting because nothing's going on, but waiting for the next thing. I wait for the alarm to go off to announce the new day, if our baby hasn't awoken us already. I wait for the coffee to be brewed. I wait for our daughter to wake up or to go to sleep. I wait for my turn to answer emails. I wait until it's lunchtime. I wait until my next Zoom meeting. I'm so busy waiting to find the moments to get everything done. And it's also impossible to make a consistent schedule like before. Most days before the stay-at-home order, my days were so packed from beginning to end, I didn't have time to wait. It was on to the next meeting, hoping I wasn't going to be late to it. I was so busy waiting for the chance to be busy with something else, and it's not a peaceful waiting. The world we have built for ourselves before this moment in time is one of busyness, and I know that's not a shock to any of you. If you do have time to slow down, relax, engage in self-care, it is usually something that is carefully scheduled, fit perfectly between other obligations, so that you'll either decide to let it go, cancel it, or ensure that you are stressed to the max before the moment that you go and get your massage or your manicure or your moment of peace in the park. You'll make sure that you are stressed until you get to the next thing once it's done. This is a hard way to live. I've had the honor of teaching this graduating class at Temple for the last 2 years, and I see so much of this present in their lives too. We begin each class every week, taking the time to connect through a ritual known to many who go to camp as roses and thorns. It's a moment to share a highlight from the week, as well as their biggest disappointment. And while often I would tease them about how they would only share things about their favorite sports teams and how they were performing in a given week, they would also often express the intense level of stress they were under. Whether it was exams, projects, homework assignments, rehearsals, practices, family commitments, they were pushed to their limit. Even if every commitment was something they loved, still their to-do lists weighed on their minds and their hearts, wondering if they'd really pull it off, or knowing they might, but they wouldn't feel good about how they got there. I often worried about them. I still do. Their stress levels, and how they could function in this cycle that seems inescapable. And then often, when I would be worrying about them, I may have a moment of self-reflection where I would realize, this is how I live also. And now our lives have been so disrupted. We don't know up from down. We can't keep track of all the Zoom meeting times, let alone links and passwords. We are still so busy. For some of us, even busier than we were before. Or we're waiting for when we can take a break from one thing in order to do another. It's not organized. The world wasn't always this way. Consider the lives led by your great-great-grandparents, for instance. For many of us, we may not live in the same city, let alone the same country. We may eat different foods. Some may be the same, however. We may speak a different language. The way they even procured their basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter was so different from ours. I remember as a child hearing my grandmother talking about working in her parents' ready-to-wear store. I don't know how far along I was into adulthood when I realized that's just all stores now. But it was such a big deal that they had a ready-to-wear store where you could buy something off the rack. So like I said, even the way they got clothes was different. This is not to say that I think we should go back to how things were. We should go back to simpler times. Also, that's not possible. However, I do want us to focus on one thing that is the same throughout time for our families, no matter how far you go back, and that is Torah. Even if your family is like mine and is as diverse as this planet, if you are Jewish either by choice or by chance, you are connected to Torah through every ancestor all the way back to Sinai. And for our graduating class, you are a link in that same chain. I often share at bar and bat mitzvahs that each Torah portion seems as though it was picked for that particular student. And here too, while I'm not going to go into all the details of this Torah portion, it seemed fitting for this exact moment. The Torah portion, Parshat Emor, which means speak, which I hope that through this service you have heard the graduates of 2020 speak through their writing. But this Torah portion discusses many things. And one of those is fixed times, especially Shabbat, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. It reminds us of what has remained constant to our people throughout the generations, the fact that we mark sacred time together. We are currently being challenged to think about how we do that differently now. The world does not look the same as it did 8 weeks ago. For instance, even tonight, as we attempt to mark this sacred time of Shabbat, you may have had to close your other browser tabs, ignore the notifications dinging on your phone. At the moment, you may even be multitasking, preparing your Shabbat dinner or taking a call while listening to me at this exact moment. You might be still attempting to pull up the prayer book on your laptop from an email from weeks ago from Temple. Any number of things. However, this is now how we mark sacred time. Your Passover this year, your Pesach, either held with your immediate family who lives within your house with you or over Zoom, or by watching the incredible all-star cast who hosted the Saturday night Seder, your Pesach looked different, but this is now how we mark sacred time. Tonight is also not how we are accustomed to celebrating our graduates. Before this service, we did have the opportunity to gather on Zoom as a class and have a moment of community. And now, here I am speaking to our graduating class, as well as all of those listening, just as if you were here. But you're not. These front rows should be filled with your faces. And so, because we are marking sacred time differently, I do want to invite those of you who are watching on our Facebook live stream to please leave a message for our graduates, our graduating class here at Temple, as another way of celebrating. Perhaps you want to share a blessing for them, perhaps a hope for the future. I would say that you could leave a piece of advice for them, but the world is so uncertain right now, who knows what advice would even be helpful, but if you feel up for it, feel free. Because this is now a time and a way that we mark sacred time. We do it differently. You, our 2020 graduates, teach us more than you know. And you will continue to innovate and define how our society moves forward from this and how we continue to mark sacred time. You have already shown your resiliency in adjusting to life in a pandemic, and I know, as I hope everyone heard in your words I shared tonight, your wisdom will help us continue to grow as people and as a Jewish people. Each generation receives Torah, as we have studied in our class. You know that each generation determines how Torah will be lived in the world in which they live. We are so honored to be on this journey with you. As I said, the name of this Torah portion is Emor, which translates as speak. So I hope that you know we are always here listening for the lessons that you have to teach us. In Judaism, there is a prayer for everything. And so we want to offer the traveler's prayer, a prayer acknowledging the liminal moment between ending one moment and beginning another. Tefillat Haderach is dedicated to Temple Israel's class of 5780, and if you'd like to sing with us, it's on page 345 in your prayer book.
May we be blessed as we go on our way. May we be guided in peace. May we be blessed with health and joy. May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen. May by the wings of peace. May we be kept in safety and in love. May grace and compassion find their way to every soul. May this be our blessing. Amen. All voices, amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing.